Chapter 5990. Father Hong Zhuang and I plan to go to the Bailey family. If there's anything, send someone to inform us. Di Beichen smiled. Don't worry, there shouldn't be anything big in the near future. When Lin Yunqing knew that Bailey Hong Zhuang was going back to the Bailey family, she called Di Xiaofeng over. When Di Xiaofeng arrived, he saw that not only was Lin Yunqing here, but Xia Wanrong was also here. Mother, why did you call me over? Di Xiaofeng asked. However, Lin Yunqing didn't answer him. Instead, she looked at Xia Wanrong and the two smiled at him. Being stared at by the two, Di Xiaofeng's heart felt numb. He couldn't help but ask again, Grandmother, mother, if you want to say something, just say it. I'm not used to looking at me like this. Seeing this, Xia Wanrong laughed out loud and said, Xiaofeng, you're not young anymore. Beichen is your younger brother and he's been married for many years. What do you think about marriage? Di Xiaofeng was slightly stunned. After understanding what was going on, he calmed down. Usually, grandmother and mother would pay the most attention to this point when they were together. In fact, mother wasn't very anxious about this matter. The most anxious person was grandmother. Unlike the past when grandmother mentioned this matter, he would try his best to avoid it. This time he didn't feel repulsed by this question. Lin Yunqing knew her son the best. Just by noticing Di Xiaofeng's expression, she already understood a bit. Xiaofeng, I see that you've always been very close to that Miss Yunyan. Back then you were unwilling to contact the girl we introduced. It was because of her, right? Di Xiaofeng's expression was a bit awkward. He was a grown man, so it was inevitable that he would feel embarrassed when this question was brought up. However, he still nodded. Lin Yunqing and Xia Wanrong both smiled. It was rare to see Di Xiaofeng like this. You're not young anymore. It's normal to have someone you like. Lin Yunqing's smile was gentle and there was a motherly love in her eyes. Di Xiaofeng was a little worried. Mother, you know she's from the Bailey family. He felt that his family had never had any prejudice against social status, but he was still a little worried. Looking at Di Xiaofeng's expression, Lin Yunqing had already guessed what he was worried about. She smiled faintly and said, I know what you are worried about, but I believe you also understand that we are not people who care about these things. Thinking back to the time when Bailey Yunyan had come to the clan and walked so close to Xiaofeng, they had already understood in their hearts. What's more, when you really like someone, it's impossible to hide the look in your eyes. As a mother, no matter how slow-witted she was, she could still understand. After experiencing so many things, she had already seen through these things. As for her two sons, she only wanted them to be happy from the bottom of their hearts. When Beichen and Hong Zhuang got together, how many people thought that they were not suitable for each other? The final result also proved that this was the best choice. Children and grandchildren had their own blessings. Who knew when they would bring them a huge surprise? Xia Wanrong also nodded. Grandmother only hopes that you can get married early and hold a grandson. As long as the other party is a sensible girl, grandmother will support it. Chapter 5991. In fact, he had always planned to tell his family about this. However, he was worried that something he didn't want to see would happen, so he delayed it. He didn't think that his grandmother and mother had already figured it out and he didn't need to worry at all. Really? The ecstatic Di Xiaofeng couldn't help but ask again. He just wanted to make sure. Looking at Di Xiaofeng's excited appearance, Xia Wanrong and Lin Yunqing couldn't help but laugh. The smile in their eyes grew wider and wider. Of course it's true. Di Xiaofeng's smile spread from the bottom of his heart. He believed that when he told Yunyan this news, she would be very happy. Xiaofeng, you've really grown up. Look at how happy you are. I don't usually see you like this. Xia Wanrong teased with a smile. Her eyes were filled with unconcealable love. In addition to being happy, Lin Yunqing's expression also became more serious. Xiaofeng, you are the young master of the Lin family. I have to discuss this matter with your grandfather first. Although Xiaofeng was her son, he had an even more important identity as the young master of the Lin family. The marriage of the young master was a big event for the entire family. She had to tell her father about this matter first. After confirming it, she had to go to the Bailey family to propose marriage. This kind of etiquette couldn't be neglected. Di Xiaofeng nodded slightly and smiled. Mother, I'll have to trouble you with this matter. Lin Yunqing chuckled and patted Di Xiaofeng's hand. She nodded and said, Don't worry. Leave this matter to me. I'll help you prepare it, okay? Then I'll have to trouble grandmother and mother. Di Xiaofeng's eyes were as bright as shooting stars. He had always been serious about Yunyan. Naturally, he didn't want to treat her unfairly. During this period of time, Yunyan had always been with him. However, he could still faintly feel that Yun Yen was unconsciously revealing her worries. Although he had always assured Yun Yen that even if the family didn't agree, he would find a way to convince them. However, he also knew that before the dust settled, Yun Yen could not be worried. Fortunately, he could finally relax now. Bailey family. When Bai Li Fan heard that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had returned to the family, he was overjoyed. He immediately led a group of clansmen to welcome them. From the disciples who had returned, he had already found out about the master's performance in the ancient battlefield. Even though he had not seen it with his own eyes, he could imagine how magnificent the scene was. In the past, the Di family's biggest rivals were the Jun family and the Xiao family. Now that the Jun family and the Xiao family were no longer their opponents, the Di family would only become stronger and stronger. Most importantly, when the family's disciples went out to gain experience, he was always unable to eat or sleep in peace. He was worried that they would get injured and die. Because as a small family, they had no advantage at all in this kind of experience. To put it bluntly, they could only pick up scraps because once they encountered a large clan's team, they had no ability to face them head-on other than retreating. Otherwise, the slightest carelessness would result in the entire army being wiped out. He felt very helpless about this, but he could not change all of this because every small clan was like this. It would take a long time for a small family to be promoted to a large family, or for a cultivator with extraordinary talent to lead the family to become powerful. Chapter 5992. Even though the family head wasn't usually in the family and rarely came back, he could tell from the vitality on the faces of the family's young cultivators that everything had changed. In the past, everyone had always hoped to change everything, but they didn't have the ability to do so. Now everyone was filled with hope. They didn't have the slightest bit of hesitation or confusion about the future, only the heart to fight. He never dared to imagine such a scene in the past. Family head. Welcome, family head. Bai Li Fan led the group of elders and disciples in saluting. Unlike when Bailey Hongzhuang first came to the Bailey family, everyone was filled with admiration from the bottom of their hearts. Bailey Hongzhuang walked to Bai Li Fan with a smile. Second family head, let me introduce you. These are my family members, my maternal grandfather, maternal grandmother. Hearing this introduction, everyone realized that these people were Bailey Hongzhuang's family members. Actually, they had already heard this news from the Bailey family's cultivators. After all, they were cultivators from the Bailey family. Even though everyone knew that they wouldn't be bullied if they followed the family head to the D family, they had been gone for so long that everyone was very concerned about their situation. Thus, they would still occasionally exchange letters. Greetings, I am the second family head, Bai Li Fan. Bai Li Fan revealed a smile. Speaking of which, they weren't related to Lan Yunxiao and the others in any way, but they were the family head's relatives, which made them members of the Bailey family. Second family head. Lan Yunxiao and the others also cupped their hands with warm smiles on their faces. They couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. Bai Li Fan was older than Lan Yunxiao, but now he was addressing Hong Zhuang as family head. It really was a bit strange. However, from the expressions of the Bailey family members, they understood that even though Hong Zhuang hadn't returned for so long, her status and prestige in the Bailey family hadn't changed in the slightest. Everyone looked at her with respect and admiration. The relationship between Hong Zhuang and this family was much closer than they had imagined. Let's not talk while standing. Let's go in first, Bailey Hongzhuang said with a smile. She had never felt unfamiliar with the Bailey family. This was her family. It had always been this way. Right. Bai Li Fan hurriedly said, Look, I'm so happy to see you all back that I actually let everyone stand here. Everyone's face was filled with kind smiles. Bailey Hongzhuang was like a moon surrounded by stars as she walked into the Bailey family's meeting hall. Send someone to prepare some drinks and snacks, Bai Li Fan ordered. In the conference hall, everyone gathered together and the atmosphere was joyous and harmonious. Family head, we've already heard about what happened at the ancient battlefield. Congratulations, family head. The first elder raised his cup and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. He no longer had any doubts about Bailey Hongzhuang. She was their family's savior. Not only the first elder but all the elders present had the same thought. Back then they had thought that Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to take away their family. They had always thought that the second family head's decision was too crazy and risky. But now it seemed that their foresight was too terrible. They were far inferior to the second family head's foresight. Chapter 5993. Everyone did not understand why she was doing this. Because of this, They were full of goodwill towards Bailey Hongzhuang and only wanted to do their best to help her. They could not reject Bailey Hongzhuang's generous help, but they felt a little guilty to accept it, so they could only do their best to treat her well. Let's toast to the family head. Bailey Fan smiled. Congratulations, family head. Everyone raised their glasses. Thank you. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her glass and drank the wine in one gulp. This time in the ancient battlefield, everyone has gained a lot. I believe that our Bailey family will get better and better. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were full of anticipation. She would definitely make the Bailey family a great family once again and return to the peak of glory. Once she said this, everyone's eyes shone with a dazzling light of hope. This time, I have brought back all the cultivators who had gone to learn about medicine. I plan to let some of them stay in the family. The medical skills taught by Dr. Wu can already treat many illnesses. There are also some talented doctors who have come back to visit their families. I will bring them back after that. When their medical skills are strong enough, they will come back. As for the rest, I will leave it to the second family head. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly explained her plan. Other than that, I have also prepared some miraculous pills and medicines. If anyone comes to seek medical treatment, they can solve it themselves. If they can't solve it, send someone to bring them to the D family. I will give them a heads up so you can rest assured. She had too many things to do now and could not put all her energy into the Bailey family. The medical aristocratic family always had a transcendent status no matter the time. Most importantly, no one could guarantee that they would not be seriously injured or fall ill. Therefore, no one was willing to offend a family like this. This was the Bailey family's best protection. The remuneration for treating patients and saving people would naturally not be small. With this remuneration, the Bailey family would be able to grow faster. Now both she and Dr. Wu were famous. In fact, there were many people who came to seek treatment from Dr. Wu. It was because of this that she made a plan. In the future, the D family would not help anyone except for the people brought by the Bailey family. This way, everyone would know how much the D family valued the Bailey family. Even if they were just a middleman, the other party would remember this favor after helping them. Favors may seem like nothing, but they were extremely important. No one knew when they would need it. Bailey Fan and the others were smart. After hearing Bailey Hongzhuang, they understood what she meant. They understood that this seemingly simple matter actually contained a lot of benefits. Even though they had always been looking forward to the day when their family could become powerful, everyone understood that it wasn't that simple to make a family powerful. They couldn't even find a reliable method. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's simple plan had already pointed out a clear path. Chapter 59-94. Lan Yunxiao and the others had been listening silently. Before this, they hadn't heard Bailey Hongzhuang mention much about the Bailey family. Now that they heard Hongzhuang's plan, they finally understood that Hongzhuang was actually so considerate of the Bailey family. This plan seemed simple, but it was very reliable. Lan Yunxiao's gaze gradually softened. His daughter was really amazing now. He always felt that Hongzhuang was still a child, so he couldn't help but worry. Now it seemed that Hongzhuang was much more mature than they thought. She had long been able to take charge of things on her own. In fact, she was far better than them. The doctors who came back with them all had expectant looks on their faces. During their time in the D family, they had been studying medicine with all their might. No one dared to slack off. They understood that this opportunity was too rare. If they didn't cherish it, they would truly be letting down the family head. Of course, they also knew that their current medical skills weren't enough. They would continue to study and improve. Even though they studied very hard every day, they had never felt so fulfilled. They seemed to be able to see the future of the family head becoming stronger and stronger. In fact, after Bailey Hongzhuang became the Holy Maiden, the Bailey family's status had been constantly rising. Their former competitors were now thinking of ways to mend the rift between them. Some families that they had once been unable to climb up to had even taken the initiative to express their goodwill. He felt that this situation would become even more obvious after the news of the ancient battlefield spread. And all of this was because of the family head. If it weren't for the family head, how could they have such glory? Di Beichen smiled as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. His wife was indeed worthy of being the family head of the Bailey family 1,000 years ago. She handled this kind of matter with ease. The overall plan had already been prepared, so there was no need to worry at all. The Bailey family of today was very different from before. The Holy Maiden was the family head, and she had the support of the D family. In addition to her medical skills, it would be strange if they didn't rise up. Although it would take a long time for them to reach the level of the D family, it was inevitable that they would get better and better. In order to become a top-notch clan, in addition to influence, one's cultivation must also increase. Without sufficient strength, it was impossible to reach such a level. However, since he had chosen the path of a medical family, it would be much easier for him than for others. The rest would only require time to accumulate. On the other hand, the number of people in the Bailey family had to be increased. Fortunately, his wife had already thought through all of this and did not immediately have the intention of making the Bailey family powerful to such an extent. After Bailey Hongzhuang finished talking about the plan, the atmosphere became even livelier. Amidst the crisscrossing cups, it was a harmonious scene. After the party was over, Bailey Hongzhuang and Bai Li Fan talked in detail. Patriarch, I heard from Qianheng and the others that Jun Lingshuan seems to have been possessed? Bai Li Fan asked doubtfully. Regarding this, he had always been very surprised. However, Qianheng said that it had been possessed, and then he said that he had regained control of the body. This confused him. Logically speaking, if the body had been possessed, it should be impossible to regain control of the body. That was completely destroying the soul. Chapter 5995. But why did I hear that he took it back? That's just Xiao Sou's trick to scare people. Hearing this, Bai Li Fan was slightly taken aback, but he quickly accepted this answer. I see. I've said that the possibility of taking it back is too small. Bai Li Fan sighed and frowned again. In that case, won't this matter be even more troublesome? Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled and shook her head. Xiao Sou's wishful thinking may fall through. Don't worry, things aren't that bad. Bai Li Fan looked deeply at Bailey Hongzhuang. After seeing her confident appearance, his heart was completely at ease. He trusted the family head very much. Even if the family head was so young, and even his son Qianheng was older than the family head, he knew very well how much power the young family head could unleash. The main reason I came back this time is to tell you about the family's future plans. I have a lot of things to do, so I can't stay here too often. However, if you have anything to say, send someone to inform me. I'll definitely deal with it as soon as possible. Bailey Hongzhuang reminded. Bai Li Fan smiled and nodded. His heart was filled with gratitude. Thank you, family head. This is my responsibility. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly and stared at Bai Li Fan. In my heart, the Bailey family is my family. The family's matters are my matters. I hope you can understand this and truly treat me as a member of the Bailey family. Looking at those sincere and serious eyes, Bai Li Fan's heart was filled with shock. However, he also understood that there were some mistakes in his way of thinking. I understand. While Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest stayed at the Bailey family, the Xiao family was in a different situation. Xiao Sou had always wanted to visit the Jun family, but a few days ago she heard that some of the Jun family's cultivators had already returned. However, Jun Lingshuan had yet to return. This news didn't make her too worried. The other cultivators had all returned, so how could Jun Lingshuan not return? She had begun to think of marrying Qing Devil as soon as possible. After all, she was already Qing Devil's woman. Moreover, with Qing Devil's strength, he would definitely go to the Crossing Immortal Domain or even the Immortal Domain in the future. For her, it was a strange place full of yearning. For Qing Devil, it used to be his hometown. When she heard Shu Yu's master talk about the Crossing Immortal Domain, she was very envious and hoped that she could go there herself one day. Shu Yu had merely gone to the Celestial Realm, yet he already had a transcendent status in the upper realm. If she had gone to the Celestial Realm, wouldn't that be even more impressive? With that in mind, Xiao Sou went to look for Xiao Yanlong. Father, we are anxious to wait here all the time. Why don't we go directly to the Jun family? She had been waiting here all the time because she couldn't hold back the anxiety in her heart. After going to the Jun family, if Qing Devil came back, she would be the first to know. Seeing Xiao Sou's anxious look, Xiao Yanlong was a little surprised. He vaguely felt that his daughter seemed to have special feelings for Qing Devil. If it was only for interest, so he shouldn't care so much. However, no matter what the purpose was, it didn't matter if they went to the Jun family. On the contrary, it could shorten the distance between them and the Jun family. Chapter 5996. Seeing that Xiao Yanlong agreed, Xiao Sou also breathed a sigh of relief. She really couldn't wait any longer. What she was most worried about now was whether the Qing Devil would want to come to the Jun family. However, according to their previous conversation, such an environment would not do any harm to the Azure Fiend, so he should be willing to come. All these things made her a little confused for a while. The only thing she was sure of was that she wanted to see the Qing Devil. When Xiao Sudong heard that Xiao Sou was going to the Jun family, he didn't choose to go with her. Recently, his mood was very complicated, and he couldn't even concentrate on his cultivation. He began to miss the past. Before he became an ally with the Jun family, both his father and sister were not like this. At that time, many people said that the Jun family did things by hook or by crook. At that time, he also had the same idea. However, all the things that happened later were beyond his expectations. Even if he wanted to change, he had no chance. And now he found that his father and sister had been assimilated by the Jun family. He was still powerless to change all this. The most important thing was that when he saw that Di Baichen was open and above board and had so many friends, he couldn't help but envy him. In fact, putting everything aside, he also admired Di Baichen very much. It was just that the positions of the two sides were completely different. The more outstanding Di Baichen was, the greater the threat to them. He hoped that Jun Lingxuan was such a person. Then they wouldn't have fallen into such a situation. However, Di Baichen and Bailey Hongzhuang seemed to have extraordinary talent in this regard. Even Di Xiaofeng couldn't do this at that time. In just a few years he had already gained a firm foothold here and had so many friends. All these were things that they couldn't envy. He couldn't be the only one who envied this. When Jun Hongqing knew that Xiao Yanlong and Xiao Shou had come, a big smile appeared on his face. In fact, as the waiting time became longer and longer, he was a little uncertain in his heart. He was only worried that something unexpected would happen in the process. If Ling Sun was unable to return, he was also worried that the relationship with the Xiao family would be severed because of this. At that time, the Jun family would be in an even more difficult situation. This was obviously something he didn't want to see, but based on the current situation, he couldn't take the initiative to contact the Xiao clan. However, now that Xiao Yanlong and the other two had taken the initiative to come, and were so concerned about Ling Sun's situation, it made him feel a wave of warmth, and he completely heaved a sigh of relief. Hongqing, Ling Sun hasn't returned yet? When Xiao Yanlong saw Jun Hongqing, he smiled and greeted him. After the two sides formed an alliance, he came to the Jun family very freely and did not feel restrained at all. A hint of helplessness flashed across Jun Hongqing's face when he heard that. He sighed and nodded. Ling Sun hasn't returned yet. Perhaps he was delayed by something on the way. A hint of disappointment flashed in Xiao Shou's eyes. She had hoped to see Azure Demon when she arrived. Although she didn't know Qing Devil for long, she couldn't forget everything that happened in the ancient battlefield. Especially when she heard Qing Devil talk about the immortal realm, she was filled with endless yearning. It was too difficult to go to the immortal realm with her own strength. She could only reach there smoothly if she was with Qing Devil. Chapter 5997. Jun Hongqing did not ignore the disappointment and eagerness on Xiao Shou's face, and immediately became even more satisfied with his future daughter-in-law. At that time, Ling Sun spent a lot of effort to pursue Xiao Shou, and he was not sure whether Xiao Shou agreed to the engagement because the Di family was hopeless or because she really liked Ling Sun. Now it seemed that his original worries were unnecessary. His son was still very charming. No matter what the reason was at the beginning, at least now Xiao Shou must be sincere to Ling Sun. The current situation made him feel more depressed than when he was suppressed by the Di family many years ago. At least the Di family had always been in a stable state, and not like now when they were in the limelight. If Xiao Shou's position as the Holy Maiden of Light had not been snatched away, then the current situation would not have fallen to this point. Unfortunately, the heavens did not fulfill people's wishes, and no one expected such a situation to occur. Is Master also here? Xiao Shou asked aloud. Jun Hongqing pointed to the back and said, "He is in the back courtyard, go and pay him a visit." Xiao Shou nodded and immediately walked towards the back. As she learned more about the immortal domain, she wanted to know more about the new face of the immortal domain. The immortal domain, just this name alone, was full of endless attraction. Although her master had not been to the real immortal domain, he had been to the immortal domain, so he could be considered a half-immortal. Maybe after this incident she could learn more about the immortal domain from her master. When he saw Xiao Shou, he was not surprised at all, and his expression was gentle and calm. "So you are here? Greetings, master." Xiao Shou bowed respectfully. It seems that Ling Sun has not returned yet. Shu Yu's eyes swept over. Since only Xiao Shou came, it proved that there was no news about Jun Lingxuan. Xiao Shou nodded slightly. I think he should be delayed by something, so he did not come back. Hearing this, Shu Yu looked at Xiao Shou meaningfully and said, "You're worried that he doesn't want to come back, right?" As soon as he said this, Xiao Shou's expression suddenly changed. After a quick flash of panic, she forced herself to calm down. There was a trace of guilt in her voice. "Master, what do you mean?" It's impossible to reverse the process of possession. Shu Yu's expression was calm. After hearing the news from the cultivators who returned this time, he already knew the real situation. Since the Qing devil admitted that she had possessed his body, it proved that Jun Lingxuan had died long ago. It was impossible for her to take back the initiative. He had been to the crossing celestial region before. Unlike the cultivators in the upper realm who rarely came into contact with possession, he was very familiar with it. When he first found out, he was very puzzled by Xiao Sou's reaction. After thinking about it carefully, he guessed the reason for her actions. Most importantly, at this moment after seeing Xiao Sou's expression, he seemed to understand a little more. Xiao Sou looked flustered, her eyes kept flickering, and her palms were quickly sweating. She unconsciously lowered her head, and her mind was rapidly searching for a way to deceive this point. Even if she made up this kind of thing flawlessly, it was still possible to deceive family head Jun and the others. However, if she wanted to deceive her master, it was indeed too difficult. Previously, she had thought of everything too simply and had completely forgotten about this point. Chapter 59-98. Master, Xiao Sou said hurriedly but was interrupted by Shu Yu. Say no more. I know what you're thinking. Xiao Sou's heart skipped a beat. Everything would be over once her master told others. All the plans they had thought of before would turn into bubbles, and there would be no more hope. I won't interfere with the decision you've made. I won't say much about it either. Just think about it carefully. Xiao Sou, who was worrying about how to solve this big problem, was stunned after hearing Shu Yu's words. She subconsciously wondered if she had misheard. Did her master want to keep it a secret for her? Master? Shu Yu looked indifferent. I know it's not easy for you. You just have to make your own plans. I won't get involved. After getting a positive answer, Xiao Sou breathed a sigh of relief and her heart settled down. Thank you, Master. The reason why I mention this is to give you a few words of advice. People in the immortal realm are not simple. If you don't know Qing Devil's character, you have to be careful. Shu Yu looked at Xiao Sou with a complicated expression. For so many years he had not accepted any disciples. He was quite satisfied with his two disciples, Xiao Sou and Jun Lingxuan. However, he did not expect that such a change would happen after he went to the ancient battlefield. Nowadays he had become indifferent to many things. Everyone knew about the conflicts, and even intrigues between aristocratic families. Jun Lingxuan was no longer around. He just hoped that Xiao Sou could live well. Master, don't worry. Xiao Sou was moved. I've been in contact with Qing Devil for some time. I know his character. He has no evil intentions towards me. With Qing Devil's strength, it was not difficult for him to kill her. However, Qing Devil did not want to kill her. This was what she was most confident about. Noticing Xiao Sou's sparkling eyes, Shu Yu understood her thoughts. He didn't say anything more. Everyone had their own judgment. Bailey Hongzhuang's group stayed with the Bailey family for 7 days before leaving. During this time, Bailey Hongzhuang had a general understanding of what had happened in the Bailey family. Bai Li Fan and the others seized this opportunity to ask many questions, and Bailey Hongzhuang answered them one by one. Whether it was Bai Li Fan or the group of elders, they were all deeply impressed by Bailey Hongzhuang's ability. She was clearly so young and she rarely interfered with the family's affairs, but when it came to solving it, she was so handy. No matter how complicated the problem was, she could always find the root of the problem and come up with a solution. Most of the time, his answers made everyone's eyes light up. In addition, Bailey Hongzhuang was also very happy to guide the family's disciples in their cultivation. Of course, as long as someone asked for advice on alchemy or medicine, she would not be stingy. In just 7 days, the Bailey family's cultivators felt that they had gained a lot. This kind of harvest was something that they would have to spend a lot of time to achieve on a normal day. If possible, they really hoped that the family head could stay in the family for a while longer. Then all of them would be greatly improved. At the same time, they also understood that the family head was very busy and could not stay here all the time. Chapter 59-99. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't urge the doctors from the Bailey family to return to the D family. They hadn't been back for a long time, so it was only right for them to stay a little longer. However, when they were about to leave, the doctors who still wanted to return to the D family to study also followed the group. Although they wanted to reunite with their families, everyone was working hard for the sake of their family. How could they slack off? Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang revealed a trace of satisfaction in her eyes. With such a firm heart, she believed that their future path would be even smoother. After thinking it over, Lan Yunxiao and the others decided not to stay in the Bailey family. They knew that if they stayed here, they wouldn't have to worry about anything. However, Hong Zhuang spent most of her time in the D family. They also hoped to see more of Hong Zhuang. Moreover, when they first went to the D family, they felt very uncomfortable. However, as time passed, they became more familiar with the D family and didn't feel too distant. Most importantly, they needed to increase their strength as soon as possible. Only by cultivating in the D family's cultivation room could they increase their strength faster. Even if no one urged them on a daily basis, that sense of urgency had never disappeared. Right now, they only felt that they were a burden and couldn't help at all. However, everyone's mentality was very calm. At least they would do their best and the gap between them would gradually shrink. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were naturally very happy with Lan Yunxiao and the others' decision. They had been looking forward to this result. Although it was very convenient to travel between the Bailey family and the D family, it wasn't as convenient as staying in the D family. After returning to the D family, Di Beichen also asked about the Jun family's situation. It said that Jun Lingxuan hasn't returned to the Jun family yet. It seems that the nine-tailed Inferno Fox's judgment was right. The Qing Devil must still be in the ancient battlefield. Di Beichen's lips curled into a playful and devilish smile. His incomparably handsome face suddenly exuded endless charm. Just one look from him was enough to captivate a person's soul. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved slightly. This is good news for us. The Jun family hasn't given up yet. It said that Xiao Shou has gone directly to the Jun family to wait. Di Xiaofeng raised his eyebrows. I'm really curious about their expressions when they find out that Jun Lingxuan won't be coming back. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone looked at each other with a sly smile in their eyes. Inside the room, the woman was wearing a white dress and was lying lazily on the bench. Her long dress flowed elegantly and her hair was also wantonly scattered. Against her fair and sparkling skin, it was like a picture scroll. Bailey Hongzhuang had one hand behind her head and the other hand was holding a scroll, casually reading it. The faint warm sun shone on her body, adding a trace of gentleness and warmth. When Di Beichen walked into the room and saw this scene, his heart seemed to melt for a moment. He slowly walked to Bailey Hongzhuang's side and reached out to pick her up, letting her lean on his legs. Looking down at that perfect and exquisite face, his eyes were full of gentleness. Wife, what are you looking at? Bailey Hongzhuang found a comfortable position in Di Beichen's arms and narrowed her eyes in satisfaction. That gentle and lazy appearance was like a cat, exuding endless charm. Chapter 6000. Di Beichen took the scroll and raised his eyebrows slightly. This is what the Qing Devil was talking about? Yes. He carefully examined the scroll in his hand. This scroll looked very old, as if it had been worn down by endless time. It had a heavy feeling of history. The material of the scroll was also very special. It was very comfortable to touch, as soft and smooth as warm jade. Looking at the scroll, she felt that it would disappear if she touched it casually. However, after touching it, she realized that it was not as fragile as it looked. Since the Qing Devil cares so much about this scroll, it must be something extraordinary. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. She looked up at the handsome face and suddenly felt that Beichen was really good-looking. No matter how she looked at him, he was so good-looking that she blushed and her heart beat faster. Even though she had been with Beichen for so long, she never got tired of looking at him. On the contrary, the feeling of being attracted to him had never disappeared. I have been busy since I came back, so I didn't have time to look at this carefully. Since I have time today, I want to see what it is. Did you find anything? Di Beichen touched Bailey Hongzhuang's soft hair gently as if he was touching a rare treasure. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head slightly. There is a layer of restriction on it. I have tried many ways but I can't see the content clearly. She was sure that this scroll must come from the immortal area. Although she didn't know what the Qing Devil's level was in the immortal area, it should be more extraordinary than the things in the upper world. Di Beichen also noticed that there were many words on the scroll, but he couldn't see them clearly. This situation was not strange. There must be a special way to open such a mysterious scroll. Don't worry. We will figure it out eventually. Di Beichen smiled faintly. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. She didn't care too much about this scroll. The main reason why she kept it was to prevent the Qing Devil from getting what he wanted. As for the way to open it, maybe they would know it when they arrived at the immortal area. Has Yunjue finished his closed-door training? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Since they came back, all the cultivators had been resting. The trip to the ancient battlefield was really tiring. Moreover, everyone's cultivation had improved a lot. It was normal for them to relax for a while. Xiren and Shangguan Yingying went to the Emperor Cloud City a few days ago, saying that they wanted to eat all the good things that they hadn't eaten for a while. When they heard. And they hadn't come back. Only Mo Yunjue went into seclusion after he came back. Everyone admired him for his hard work. Not yet, but it should be soon. Di Beichen smiled faintly. When he breaks through, he will come out. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded gently. When they came back, they heard Yunjue say that he was very close to breaking through, so they wanted to break through in one go. When Yunjue breaks through and Xiren and Shangguan Yingying come back, let's go to the abandoned immortal forest. We haven't been back since the last time we left. I wonder how Granny Hua and the others are doing. Zhongli Mu's strength should be more terrifying. Chapter 6001. I think it's boring for you to stay at home. Why don't we go to the Emperor Cloud City to find Xiren and the others? Di Beichen smiled. Granny Hua and the others love snacks the most. We can also buy some. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately sat up straight and nodded with a sweet smile. Okay, then let's go now? Emperor Cloud City. As the city closest to the Di family, it was inextricably linked to the Di family. Emperor Cloud City was extremely lively on weekdays, and now with the Di family's reputation becoming more and more famous, more and more people came to the Emperor Cloud City. When Bailey Hongzhuang arrived, they were surprised to find that the Emperor Cloud City was even more lively than before. People were coming and going, and it was full of laughter. Let's go see Huang Futing first. Di Beichen raised his eyebrows. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Di Beichen naturally took Bailey Hongzhuang's hand and walked forward. Since he told his father about his plan, his father had sent people to start building the Dark Sacred Assembly not far from the Emperor Cloud City. Huang Futing and the others were now his followers. Naturally, he couldn't let them stay in the ruined temple like before. At the very least, they should have a more comfortable residence. Although this didn't seem like much, it was a completely different feeling. He hoped that everyone would no longer feel homeless. On the contrary, they would feel more at home. Looking at the huge black building in front of them, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with shock and surprise. This building was extremely wide and round, exuding a heavy and mysterious aura. It was surrounded by mountains and forests. Although it was outside, it wasn't far from the Emperor Cloud City. On the contrary, this location gave off a sense of leisure. The whole building was majestic and spectacular. Di Yujua's work was also very impressive. Just from every detail, one could see that it took a lot of effort to build the headquarters of the Dark Sacred Assembly. At present, the Dark Sacred Assembly had not been officially established yet, so there was no sign hanging here. After all, before Di Beichen prepared everything, if this news was spread, it was inevitable that someone would come to cause trouble. This was not something they wanted to see. Di Beichen also looked at the building in shock, and his heart was filled with emotions. Before he left the family, he had only told his father about his thoughts. In fact, he had planned to prepare everything himself, but he didn't expect that he would suddenly have to go out and train, so he could only leave everything to his father. However, he did not expect his father to complete everything so well. It was almost the same as what he had planned. Wife, from now on, this will be the headquarters of the Dark Sacred Assembly. Di Beichen turned to look at her. His deep eyes were as dazzling as the stars. Bailey Hongzhuang saw a firm conviction in his eyes. This will definitely be the most sensational event in the upper realm. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. As her vision gradually broadened, her confidence in this matter became even stronger. In Di Beichen's mind, he couldn't help but think of the scene when his master had talked to him about this matter. He had promised to give the dark attribute cultivators more space to live, to let them live a dignified life, and not be looked at with strange eyes by others. Now this plan had begun. In the near future, he believed that this matter would be completed. Chapter 6002. Huang Futing and the rest walked out after noticing that there were people outside. Ever since they came here, their hearts had been filled with gratitude. When they first sought help from Di Beichen, everyone only thought that they had to work hard for Di Beichen. However, during this period of time, they had not done anything for Di Beichen at all. On the contrary, it was the other party who had been contributing. Whether it was the cultivation resources, the current residents, or the various care in the ancient battlefield, it was all Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang who helped them. On the contrary, they did not contribute anything. Now they no longer had many concerns like before. They only had one thought: and that was to work hard for the young master willingly. No matter what the young master asked them to do, they would go through fire and water without hesitation. When everyone walked outside and saw the two familiar figures, smiles appeared on their faces. "Young master, madam?" Huang Futing hurried over. Everyone had thought about how to address Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. In the end, they followed the way the Di family addressed them. To them, Di Beichen was not only their president in the future but also their leader. Seeing the familiar faces, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were also delighted. "You're all here. After the young master told us the news, we came over immediately." Huang Futing smiled faintly. "Thank you, young master and madam." Everyone bowed together. Perhaps in the eyes of others, having a stable residence was nothing. However, for people like them who did not have a fixed residence, this feeling was too long since they had such a feeling. They had not felt at ease for a long time. Many of the thoughts in their hearts could not be expressed in words. The only thing they could say was the word thank you. In the future, this will be the headquarters of the Sacred Assembly. What do you all think? Di Beichen slowly walked into the Sacred Assembly. He realized that it was extremely spacious inside, and the layout and design were very considerate. Obviously, his father must have found a skilled craftsman to specially design it. "Young master, this place is really great. Yes, not only is it spacious but the design is also very good. I've been to the headquarters of other guilds before, and our place is much better than theirs." Excitement appeared on everyone's faces at the same time. Even now, they were still immersed in such joy, looking forward to the day when the Dark Sacred Assembly was established. Di Beichen nodded slightly and said, "During this period of time, all of you can cultivate here in peace. Once we're done with the preparations, we can announce this news." As soon as he said that, everyone's breathing quickened. After waiting for so long, this day had finally arrived. "When the time comes, I will inform you. Everyone prepare yourselves." Di Beichen's eyes were bright and dazzling like diamonds. "Huangfu, it's time for our brothers to come back. I hope that everyone will be here on the day the Sacred Assembly is established." "I understand." Huang Futing nodded, and he couldn't conceal the excitement on his face. Suddenly, Di Beichen seemed to have thought of something and said, "Before that, you have to do something first." "Young master, feel free to tell me. I will definitely settle this matter properly." Chapter 6003. Hearing Di Beichen's words, Huang Futing's body trembled, and his expression froze for a moment, but his eyes gradually turned red. "Young master," Di Beichen smiled faintly, we already know about your matter. She has been waiting for you for so long. It's time to go and pick her up." Bailey Hongzhuang also looked at Huang Futing with a smile. From the conversation in the ancient battlefield, they already understood that the woman had sacrificed too much for Huang Futing. Now that the Dark Sacred Assembly was about to be established, Dark Attribute cultivators would no longer have to live in hiding like before. Only by bringing her over would Huang Futing be truly happy. Huang Futing suppressed the feeling of tears in his eyes. In fact, this had always been a part of his heart that he did not have the courage to touch. Ever since he learned about her recent situation, he could not help but think of her whenever he was alone. On the day the Dark Sacred Assembly was established, he also wanted her to see it with her own eyes. "Thank you, young master." Huang Futing's expression was serious, and his voice was mixed with more emotions than usual. At the same time, the other cultivators present also revealed joyful smiles. "Brother Huangfu, you can do it. We're all waiting for sister-in-law to come back." Before they found the young master, Huang Futing was their leader. If Huang Futing had not gathered them together, their lives would have been even more difficult. More importantly, Huang Futing led all of them to find the young master, which was why they had their current lives. Usually, everyone could feel that he would be depressed sometimes. Originally, everyone only thought that it was because of the family, but now it seemed that he had always been thinking about someone. Looking at the familiar and amiable faces around him, the smile on Huang Futing's face became more and more brilliant. Then he nodded heavily and his smile was free and easy. "Don't worry, I'll definitely bring her back." Everyone cheered, and at this moment, everyone felt happy from the bottom of their hearts. Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang looked around the Dark Sacred Assembly, and the more they looked, the more satisfied they were. As the head of an aristocratic family, Di Yujue was very familiar with these things. Everything was designed in an orderly manner, and no one could find any problems with it. After the two of them left the Dark Sacred Assembly's headquarters, they continued to search for Xiren and Shangguan Yingying. With Xiren and Yingying's gluttonous nature, They should be in some restaurant at this time, right? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the bustling streets. It was already noon, and the sun had become scorching hot. Di Beichen smiled faintly. Xiao He and Xiao Bai are also following them. We just have to follow their auras. The two of them walked forward, and it didn't take long for them to sense Xiao He and Xiao Bai's auras. After taking a closer look, wasn't it the restaurant in front of them? When Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Yingying arrived, they found that Xiren and Shangguan Yingying had ordered a table of good wine and dishes. Opposite them were Xiao He and Xiao Bai, and the two people and two beasts' faces were filled with excitement. I guess that you must be having a meal. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled and quickly walked forward. Hongzhuang? Shangguan Yingying was overjoyed. Why are you here? Come and sit down, the taste of this restaurant's food is really amazing. Master. Xiao He turned into a white light and directly pounced into Bailey Hongzhuang's arms, excitedly rubbing against her body. Master, I missed you so much. Chapter 6004. With Master here, I'm so happy that I forget about home. Xiao He leaned into Bailey Hongzhuang's arms, her little face full of seriousness. Tisk, tsk. Shangguan Yingying poked Xiao He with her chopsticks. Who was it that said that if she could eat so happily every day she would rather stay here forever? Xiao He turned her head and glared angrily at Shangguan Yingying, who had exposed her, then looked innocently at Bailey Hongzhuang. I don't know who Yingying is talking about. Ah. Shangguan Yingying laughed. She liked Xiao He's playful look. Bailey Hongzhuang rubbed Xiao He's head. Come on, do you think I don't know your personality? You can't walk when you see good food. If you really missed me, you would have come looking for me after playing outside for so many days. Hee hee. Xiao He smiled embarrassedly. I actually guessed that Master would come looking for me today, so I waited here obediently. Wouldn't it be terrible if I went the wrong way? Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't be bothered to listen to this little girl's nonsense. After sitting down with Xiao He in her arms, she noticed that Bai Li Yanqi and Ling Er weren't here. At the same time, Di Beichen's voice rang out. Where did Yanqi and Ling Er go? As soon as he said this, when Xiren and Shangguan Yingying looked at each other, and their expressions became very interesting. Speaking of this matter, it's a bit complicated. What happened? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows, a little puzzled. Logically speaking, it should be impossible for anything dangerous to happen in Emperor Yun City. What's more, if there really was danger, Xiren and Shangguan Ying wouldn't be eating so leisurely. Yanqi really has good luck with women. Xiren raised his eyebrows, his cultured and refined face filled with a gossipy expression. Shangguan Yingying continued, you also know how lethal Yanqi's looks are. When we were walking with Yanqi earlier, all the unmarried girls on the road were secretly throwing flirtatious glances at him. Even married ladies couldn't help but take a few more glances at him. Along the way, as long as it was a female, their eyes were filled with love. Let's see. You guys didn't see it. It was simply a miracle. Xiren shook his head and sighed. Even now, when he thought about it, he was still amazed. Is it that exaggerated? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and subconsciously looked at Di Beichen. Yanqi's handsomeness was obvious to all. Not to mention Di Yun City, even in the Di family there were many girls who admired him. They were already accustomed to this matter, but Yingying and Shangguan Ying were exaggerating a little. Beichen's looks were not inferior to Yanqi's. Although there were many people paying attention to them along the way, it wasn't that shocking. You don't need to look at Beichen. Xiren put down his chopsticks and said, you two are a well-known couple, especially in Emperor Yun City. Who doesn't know how much you love each other? A married man and an unmarried man have different lethality. Shangguan Yingying nodded in agreement. What's more, you're the holy maiden of the light. Who would dare steal your man? Wouldn't that be courting death? Bailey Hongzhuang was startled. Now that I think about it, what you said makes sense. Of course. Shangguan Yingying looked proud. What does this have to do with Yanqi not being here? Chapter 6005. Haha, that's the most important point. Xiren chuckled. You know how frightening Yanqi is, so it's inevitable that girls would throw themselves at him. It's not like what you're saying. Shangguan Yingying glanced sideways at Xiren, a hint of disdain in her expression. Then she said seriously, actually, this is a story of a hero saving a damsel in distress. Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Yingying finally understood what was going on after when Xiren and Shangguan Yingying's narration. It turned out that on their way to the restaurant, Yanqi saw a girl being bullied by a thug, so he stepped in to save her. That girl was quite pitiful. Her stepmother had sold her to a thug, so Bai Lian-che took out some money and gave it to the thug, writing off the matter once and for all. Bai Lian-che thought that the matter was over, but just as he was about to leave, that girl proposed to follow Bai Lian-che. In my opinion, that girl must be in love with Yan-che. Shangguan Yingying smiled faintly. If it were me and I was in such a difficult situation and a handsome and rich man saved me, I would definitely be willing to give myself to him. Ziren raised his eyebrows and asked with narrowed eyes, then why didn't you give yourself to me when I saved you before? Haven't I already given myself to you? Shangguan Yingying chuckled. Besides, it's not like I don't have anywhere to go given my situation. Yan-che didn't agree, did he? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Yan-che had been with her since he was young. As a beast king, there were many times when he was cold, but he still had a kind heart. Saving someone was completely within her expectations. If she and Beichen were in the same situation, they would have also stepped in to save them. But that girl wanted to follow them, so this matter was a little complicated. As expected of brother and sister, you even guessed Yan-che's reaction. Shangguan Yingying gave her a thumbs up. Yan-che didn't do anything, but that girl's foothold has become a problem. Think about it. If her stepmother can betray her once, she can betray her a second time. She can't be lucky enough to be saved every time, right? So, Yan-che and Linger went to help her find a place to stay? Di Beichen asked with raised eyebrows. That seems to be the case. Ziren nodded. Speaking of which, the most interesting thing isn't this but Ling Er's attitude. Haha, Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but laugh. Isn't Linger usually very cold? But she's different today. How is it different? Bailey Hongzhuang also had a hint of curiosity in her eyes. Linger usually didn't care about many things. Usually when she encountered such things she would definitely not care about it. But, if this matter involved Yan-che, it might really be a little different. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's curious expression, Shangguan Yingying's smile became even brighter. Hongzhuang, you're starting to gossip too. Haha. Bailey Hongzhuang laughed softly. Don't keep us in suspense. Hurry up and tell us. You know how cold Linger usually is. She wouldn't care about this kind of thing, but when she saw that the girl insisted on following Yan-che, she volunteered to help her find a place to stay. Don't you think that's very surprising? Linger volunteered? Chapter 6006. Don't doubt it. What you've heard is the truth. Shangguan Yingying picked up a mouthful of food and put it in her mouth. She was so happy that she didn't hesitate to eat. Di Beichen and Wen Ziren ate together. They already knew what was going on, so they watched Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Ying chatter with interest. Hongzhuang, do you think Linger likes Yan-che? Shangguan Yingying asked as she put food in Bailey Hongzhuang's bowl. Try it. Tastes good. I think we can bring some with us when we go to Granny Hua's place. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Granny Hua and the others loved delicious food. We haven't been back for so long. This time we must bring more gifts. As their strength increased, they were even more grateful for the guidance Granny Hua and the others had given them. They had helped them for no reason and they had no way to repay this kindness. The only thing they could do was make Granny Hua and the others happier. I have the same idea. Ziren and I have bought a lot of things these days. Shangguan Yingying smiled. It seemed that they were all thinking the same thing. Linger and Yan-che's relationship is indeed a bit unclear, but it's best if we don't get involved in this kind of thing. If one day they really do get together, we'll be happy to see it. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled gently. She felt that things in this world were really interesting. Back in the Chaos Ring, before Yan-che had taken human form, Ling Er often bullied Yan-che and the others. Who would have thought that after Yan-che took human form, the relationship between the two would take a huge turn? It was very interesting just thinking about it. I'm actually more curious about what kind of place Ling Er will find for this girl. Shangguan Yingying's face was full of curiosity. If it were any other time, Ling Er would probably just throw this girl out, but it's not very likely that she will do so today. If she goes to another city, it might be possible, but if she stays in Emperor Cloud City, this girl's stepmother will find her sooner or later. That's right. That girl looks quite pitiful. Her tear-stained face makes one not have the heart to treat her cruelly. When Ziren also said, if we can find her a safe place to stay, that would be a good thing. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. This situation reminded her of herself in the beginning. When she was in the general's mansion, her life was also very miserable. Otherwise, the original Bailey Hongzhuang would not have died. Let's wait patiently. I believe that they will find a suitable solution. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. If they couldn't find a suitable place in Emperor Cloud City, they could go to other cities. Just how big was the upper realm? As long as he didn't go back, there were plenty of places he could go. Shangguan Yingying nodded slightly. I also think that this problem is very simple for them to solve. The four of them chatted as they ate. Perhaps it was because they had been too tense during their cultivation, but now that they could relax, everyone felt exceptionally happy. Of course, they also understood that this was just a short vacation. When Yunju came out of seclusion, they would go to the abandoned immortal forest to cultivate. After all, everything was pushing them forward now. They couldn't stop at all. And Master. Chapter 6007. Bailey Hongzhuang turned her head and found that Bai Lianche and Ling had already arrived, and there was a strange figure beside them. The girl was very delicate and pretty, with soft facial features and a gentle temperament. At this moment she was following behind Bai Lianche, with a bit of panic and timidity on her face. Shangguan Yingying was still holding a piece of vegetable in her mouth. When she suddenly saw this scene, she couldn't help but open her mouth, and the vegetable fell back into the bowl. Yo, what's going on? Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen also looked at the two strangely. This scene was different from what they had imagined. Ling still had a cold face, and compared to her usual indifference, it was undoubtedly colder at this moment. Bai Lianche saw that Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were also here, and he immediately breathed a sigh of relief, a smile on his face. Sister, brother-in-law, you're also here. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a faint smile of concern. You're hungry too, right? Do you want some more food? Bai Lianche nodded slightly, then turned around and said, let's sit down and talk. After sitting down, Bai Lianche said, Sister, I presume you already know the situation? Bailey Hongzhuang responded, but what's the problem? Do you need our help? This matter really needs brother-in-law's help. Hearing this, Di Beichen's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise, but his expression was extremely calm. What do you need me to do? Just tell me. I was originally going to help Miss Wanqing find a place to stay, but I also understood that if she stayed in Emperor Cloud City, it would be difficult for her to truly live a peaceful life, so I prepared to leave some money for her to travel out of the city. I didn't expect her to be a cultivator of the dark attribute. With this attribute, even if she went to other cities, I'm afraid her life wouldn't be easy. With a helpless expression on his handsome white face, Bai Lianche looked at Di Beichen and said, Brother-in-law, I think you can give Miss Wanqing a better place to go. What do you think? When Gu Wanqing heard that Bai Lianche was going to hand her over to Di Beichen, she was a little nervous. She lowered her head and didn't even dare to look at Di Beichen and the others. She didn't expect Bai Lianche's brother-in-law to be young Master Di. He was the young master of the Di family. She simply couldn't believe that such a person with such a noble status was by her side right now. When Di Beichen heard that Gu Wanqing was of the dark attribute, he already understood Bai Lianche's idea. He looked at Gu Wanqing with a thoughtful look in his eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang also looked at Gu Wanqing. This name really matched this girl's image. However, the Dark Sacred Assembly was about to be established. If a dark attribute girl suddenly appeared at this time, they had to be cautious. Although Gu Yunqing didn't look like a thoughtful person, it was necessary to consider. They couldn't let any uncertain factors appear in this plan. Feeling Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's gazes, Gu Wanqing became even more flustered. Her fingers intertwined and her voice trembled as she said, No matter what you ask me to do, I will do my best to do it. I will never cause trouble for anyone. If I can be young Master Yanche's maid, it will be my blessing. As soon as these words came out, everyone present looked at each other and felt a little amused. This girl was honest. She probably didn't want to do anything right now. She just wanted to stay by Li Yanche's side. Chapter 6008. Since Miss Gu has already made up your mind, it won't be a problem to accommodate you since my Di family has a large business. Di Beichen's expression was calm as he spoke slowly. Following Di Beichen's words, everyone could clearly feel that the surrounding atmosphere seemed to have become colder. Ling still had her arms crossed in front of her chest and didn't say a word, as if everything around her had nothing to do with her. However, the more this was the case, the more everyone felt that it was strange. Bai Lianche looked at Di Beichen for help. He didn't understand why his brother-in-law had agreed just like that. Helpless, he could only ask Bailey Hongzhuang for help. He didn't have any thoughts about Gu Wanqing, but if he didn't help her to the end after saving her, it wouldn't solve her problem at all. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a smile, giving Bailey Yanqi a helpless look. Originally, she was worried that Gu Wanqing wanted to join the Dark Sacred Assembly for some purpose. Now, it seemed that the situation was clearly different from what she had imagined. This should be a very simple matter of a hero saving a beauty and a woman falling in love at first sight. Now that the Dark Sacred Assembly was about to be established, if this girl was really a simple and honest person, it wouldn't be a bad choice for her to stay in the Dark Sacred Assembly in the future. After all, there were more men in the Sacred Assembly and fewer women. Most of the time, some miscellaneous and delicate matters were still handled by the women. However, before entering the Dark Sacred Assembly, they needed to properly investigate. She believed that Beichen also had the same idea, but she would have to trouble Yanqi. When Xiren and Shangguan Yingying watched the show in front of them and secretly admired Beichen, Beichen was simply trying to stir up trouble. Bai Li Yanqi felt even more helpless after seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang didn't intend to help him. Just as he was about to clear things up with Gu Wanqing, he met a pair of eyes filled with tears. Sir Yanqi, I will do my best to serve you well and won't cause any trouble. If you don't like me, I don't mind if you arrange for me to do odd jobs. Gu Wanqing felt uneasy. She really did not have any way out now. As long as she did not marry someone she did not love, she did not care what kind of hard work she had to do. Besides, she liked Bai Li Yanqi. Even if she could only see him from afar, that would be good enough. If she could do something for him, that would be the happiest thing in the world. Seeing Gu Wanqing like this, Bai Li Yanqi couldn't bring himself to reject her. He could only say, I'm used to being alone. I don't need anyone to serve me. After you go to the D family, I will see what other jobs are suitable for you. If you find a better place to go in the future, just let me know. Gu Wanqing lowered her head and said, Thank you, young master. Bai Li Yanqi breathed a sigh of relief. When he was eating, he looked at Di Beichen with resentment. His brother-in-law deliberately tricked him. However, even in the face of Bai Li Yanqi and Ling Er's resentful gazes, Di Beichen still minded his own business and ate slowly. He was not affected in the slightest. After lunch, everyone strolled around Diyun City for a while, mainly to buy some food and daily necessities. Only then did they return to the Di family. The arrangement for Gu Wanqing was very simple. The entire Di family was extremely large and would usually recruit servants. The service elder easily arranged a job for Gu Wanqing and arranged for her to be in a place not far from Bai Li Yanqi's residence. Chapter 6009. Ling you don't seem to be in a good mood today. After arranging Gu Wanqing's tasks, everyone headed back to their residence. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but ask when she saw that Ling hadn't said a word. Actually, she was very surprised by Ling behavior today. In the past, she only thought that Yanqi had feelings for Ling but Ling had never expressed her feelings. She also didn't see the slightest bit of concern in her expression. However, after this incident, everyone felt that something was wrong with Ling. Although she was Ling master, she had always treated Ling as a good sister. If it weren't for Ling she would have died long ago. Ling originally had a cold expression on her face, but after hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, her expression froze for a moment. Then she said, It's nothing. I've always been like this. When Xiren secretly gave Bai Li Yanqi a look that said, You're on your own. Although Ling had lived longer than them, it was obvious that demon beasts weren't as good at disguising themselves as humans. Even if she didn't deliberately show it, it was obvious from her current state that she was in a very bad mood. Once a girl like Ling got angry, it wouldn't be easy to appease her. Bai Li Yanqi shook his head and sighed. Had he been tricked by his brother-in-law? After hearing Ling words, Bailey Hongzhuang understood that she didn't intend to say her thoughts, so she didn't ask any further. When it came to matters of the heart, no one could say for sure except for the person involved. After Ling left, Xiren bumped Bai Li Yanqi's shoulder and smiled. Brother, there's hope. I don't understand what you're saying. Bai Li Yanqi raised his eyebrows and pretended not to understand. Xiren chuckled. I understand. These two fellows had always been enemies. Now that there was suddenly such a subtle change, it was normal for them to be unable to adapt for a while. I'll head back first, Bai Li Yanqi said. At this moment, his feelings were very complicated. Gu Wanqing was not far from where he lived. This problem was more troublesome. He had been by his sister's side for so long and was surrounded by familiar people. After he transformed into his human form, he also had his own residence. Although Gu Wan didn't live with him, this feeling was a little strange. Beichen, what did you do to Yanche today? Shengguan Yingying was a little puzzled. Although she was very happy to watch the show, today's action didn't seem to be in line with Beichen's character. Actually, from another perspective, I'm helping him. Di Beichen raised his eyebrows. Hearing this, Shengguan Yingying and the others looked at each other. Alright, they admitted that Di Beichen was telling the truth. The next day, Bailey Hongzhuang slowly woke up and saw that Di Beichen had already brought her breakfast. You're awake. Di Beichen's smile was warm. Even the sunlight couldn't be compared to his smile. I guess that you'd be hungry when you woke up, so I prepared breakfast for you. It's all your favorite food. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the incomparably handsome man in front of her, but she felt as if she had married a fox. If it wasn't for him, how could she have slept until now? Humph! Bailey Hongzhuang pouted and snorted coldly. She raised her head arrogantly and didn't want to pay attention to Di Beichen at all. Di Beichen's smile became even more affectionate. He walked slowly to Bailey Hongzhuang. Wife, I'll think that you're acting coquettishly like this. Chapter 60:10. Bailey Hongzhuang stared wide-eyed at the handsome face in front of her. Di Beichen originally saw that Bailey Hongzhuang was too cute and wanted to stop with a light kiss. But after kissing her, he found that a light kiss was not enough and could not help but deepen the kiss. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly closed her eyes. Di Beichen's kiss was as domineering as ever, but it did not lose its gentleness. It carried his unique scent, making people intoxicated. But when that pair of hot hands took the opportunity to stick to her skin, Bailey Hongzhuang opened her eyes. Her hands were pressed against Di Beichen's chest and she angrily glared at him. Could it be that this man was not tired? Last night had exhausted her to death. Even now she had not recovered and he actually, I'm hungry. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's begging appearance, Di Beichen chuckled, I'll help you bring it over? No need, I'll get up right away. Bailey Hongzhuang greedily hugged Di Beichen. Her exquisite and beautiful face was filled with a sweet and happy smile. This kind of life was really beautiful. Di Beichen nodded slightly, okay. After tidying up her clothes and putting on her makeup, Bailey Hongzhuang sat at the table. Looking at the exquisite dishes on the table, they were all her favorites. I just heard that Yunju has come out of closed-door cultivation. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. Really? Then we can go to the abandoned immortal forest together today? Should be. Di Beichen smiled. He knew that his wife had always wanted to see Granny Hua. After all, among all of them, Granny Hua liked her the most. That's great. Bailey Hongzhuang took a bite of the bun. Her delicate and beautiful face was filled with happiness. Abandoned immortal forest. In front of them was a lush forest. The air was mixed with the smell of green grass. The sunlight was dazzling, bringing with it a sense of warmth. Appearing here again, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest unconsciously revealed a happy smile. After parting for almost a year, they wondered how Zhongli Mu and the rest were doing. Walking forward, not long after, everyone saw the familiar house. They could faintly hear the sound of conversation coming from the courtyard. Everyone looked at each other and lightened their footsteps. They wanted to give Granny Hua and the rest a surprise. However, before they reached the door, Granny Hua's voice was heard, You little brats, you're finally back. Granny Hua. Granny Hua's ears? They were so careful and they almost did not make any sound, but they still could not escape Granny Hua's ears. The seven of them walked into the courtyard together and saw Granny Hua and Senior Yu drying medicinal herbs. At this moment, the two of them had already put down the medicinal herbs in their hands and were looking at them with smiles. Granny Hua, Senior. The seven of them bowed. Their youthful faces were filled with joyful smiles. After leaving for so long, seeing that everything was the same as before, everyone felt especially at ease. You guys left for a long time. Mooner often talks about you guys. Granny Hua looked at everyone with a smile. Her eyes were filled with love. Granny Hua, Senior, after not seeing you for so long, we all miss you. Chapter 60:11. Senior Yu, we've been looking forward to coming back as soon as possible to show our filial piety to you. Xiren's face was full of smiles. Look, we've brought many gifts to make amends this time. As he spoke, Xiren took out the things they had bought in the Emperor Cloud City 2 days ago. At first, Yu Hong still had an arrogant look on his face, but when he saw Xiren take out one gift after another, he could no longer maintain his cold image. He immediately beamed with joy. At least you have a conscience. Granny Hua couldn't help but smile when she saw this. These little fellows had clearly figured out their preferences, so they had prepared so many gifts. However, this also proved that these little fellows were indeed thinking about them and weren't lying. You've all improved quite a bit during this time. After carefully sensing the cultivation of Di Baichen and the others, Yu Hong's expression changed a little. When he first saw these little fellows, he didn't think much of their strength. With such a cultivation at this age, they would be a burden even in the abandoned immortal forest, let alone in the immortal domain. However, after not seeing them for a while, Di Baichen and the others had actually advanced to the heavenly moon realm. This was a leap of 3 realms. Even Moon Er's speed of improvement wasn't so astonishing. Granny Hua also sensed it when she heard this, and a hint of surprise flashed through her eyes. This kind of improvement must be due to a great opportunity. Otherwise, it would be impossible to achieve just by relying on one's own cultivation. At the same time, it was impossible for a cultivator to improve so much through ordinary opportunities. We went out to train this time. Fortunately, we had a great harvest. Di Baichen cupped his hands and replied. Granny Hua's expression became more serious. The upper realm actually has such an amazing place to train? You've only been gone for less than a year, and your cultivations have improved so much? The place we went to this time shouldn't belong to the upper realm, Di Baichen replied. Yu Hong frowned. Not from the upper realm? Then where is it? This time around we went to a battlefield. The people inside were all supreme experts. According to our judgment, they should be experts from the immortal realms in the past. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly introduced the situation of the ancient battlefield. In fact, she was very curious about the existence of the ancient battlefield. It was impossible for cultivators from the upper realm to know the origin of such a mysterious place. Even Shuyu would not know about it. Therefore, the only people who could possibly know the origin of the ancient battlefield were Granny Hua and the others. Battlefield? Hearing this, Granny Hua and Yu Hong couldn't help but look at each other. Their originally calm faces suddenly became complicated. It's just a battlefield. Your cultivation shouldn't have improved so much. Granny Hua said slowly. Then what's inside the battlefield? Did you see 2 statues? Yu Hong suddenly asked. That's right. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded, not intending to hide anything. We saw 2 statues there, one of light and one of darkness. The rumor is actually true, Granny Hua muttered and looked into the distance. Her expression was somewhat weathered, as if she was recalling something from a long time ago. Looking at the 2 of them, everyone understood that Granny Hua and Senior Yu indeed knew about the ancient battlefield. Even they had not personally been to the ancient battlefield. As for the 2 divine statues, it was written in the ancient books that they were miraculous and had endless uses. There were even rumors that as long as the cultivators who had been there were able to comprehend the contents inside, they would be destined to stand above everyone else. It was precisely because of this that there were always people who wanted to go to the ancient battlefield to search for opportunities. In fact, for such a long time, even they felt that the records in the ancient books were lies, but they didn't expect that everything was true. It was just that they didn't know it. Chapter 60:13. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others said that they could improve their cultivation talent in the Divine Palace, Granny Hua and Yu Hong were completely shocked. Improving one's talent was the most difficult thing to do no matter where it was. Even in the immortal realm, it was difficult to improve one's talent. However, the Divine Palace actually had a way to improve one's talent. That was too amazing. When He Shukang arrived, he saw Granny Hua and the others sitting in a circle in the courtyard. He immediately smiled and said, "You guys are back. No wonder it's so lively." Senior Hua. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others bowed. The seniors treated them very well, so they respected them from the bottom of their hearts. Why do you 2 look like that? He Shukang nodded at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, then looked at Yu Hong and Granny Hua in confusion. Their expressions were too strange. Old man, sit down first. Yu Hong patted the chair next to him and said, "You guys brought us some shocking news today." He Shukang was instantly interested. What news? Tell me about it. Do you remember the 2 god statues on the ancient battlefield? Granny Hua raised her eyebrows and smiled. He Shukang, who was originally casual, changed his expression after hearing this. He said in surprise, "How do they know about the god statues on the ancient battlefield?" The ancient battlefield has been abandoned for many years. I don't know why the entrance was in the upper realm. When they entered the ancient battlefield this time, they happened to see the two god statues. Huo Kong's expression changed slightly. So you're going to enter the divine palace? Everyone nodded. Huo Kong was stunned for a moment before he smiled and said, "It seems that you guys are really lucky. Senior, have you heard of a person called Qing Devil?" Di Beichen thought for a while and asked. Although they were almost certain that Qing Devil was still in the ancient battlefield, he had a physical body now. He might come out of the ancient battlefield at any time. If Qing Devil was a powerful figure in the past, someone should have heard of her. However, these seniors had been living in the abandoned immortal forest all their lives, so they might not know much about the people in the immortal region. Qing Devil? Granny Hua frowned. I've never heard of it. Did you meet this person in the ancient battlefield? Yu Hong asked. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. He's someone who's very good at illusions. We met him in the ancient battlefield and he even took over someone's body. However, he didn't seem to have returned to the upper realm this time. That's for sure. His soul still belongs to the celestial realm. It's impossible for him to appear in the upper realm. Only if this exit is in the immortal domain would he be able to come out. Yu Hong said slowly, however, the ancient battlefield has been abandoned for so long, yet his soul is still intact. This guy is quite capable. Qing Devil is good at illusions? Huo Kong pondered. This name sounds familiar. As soon as he said this, everyone's eyes focused on Huo Kong. Even though Qing Devil stayed in the ancient battlefield, everyone still felt uneasy. After all, he was still alive. After a while, Huo Kong showed a look of realization. I remember now. This guy used to be from the immortal region. Chapter 60:14. Qing Devil. Just like his name, he's very demonic. I don't know much about him. I've only heard of his reputation. This person was very good at illusions. His illusions could be said to be at the peak of perfection. Even cultivators who were stronger than him would often be immersed in his illusions and be unable to extricate themselves. That's why no one wants to have too much to do with him. He's very ruthless. Although he didn't stay in the immortal realm for long, he made a name for himself. Later, I didn't hear any news about him. I thought he went somewhere else, but I didn't expect him to be in the ancient battlefield. Hearing that, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others finally understood. It seemed that Qing Devil's strength was not to be underestimated. Although they hadn't been to the immortal realm, Granny Hua and the others were extremely terrifying in their eyes. Even so, they had been living in the abandoned immortal forest. It showed how terrifying the cultivators in the immortal realm were. Since Qing Devil was able to make a name for himself in the immortal realm, his strength must be extraordinary. I hope this guy stays in the ancient battlefield. It'll be really troublesome if he comes out. Xiren couldn't help but sigh. If this guy hadn't just possessed Jun Lingshuan's body, they wouldn't have been able to defeat him. Most importantly, no matter if it was his cultivation method or not, this guy was probably much better than them. If they saw this guy again, his strength must be very terrifying. Everyone nodded. If possible, they really didn't want to see Qing Devil again. Don't worry about that now. He's been trapped in the ancient battlefield for so many years. As long as the ancient battlefield is abandoned, he probably won't have a chance to come out, Di Beichen said slowly. Everyone was relieved. Even if Qing Devil really appeared, he could only appear in the immortal realm. With their current situation, it was impossible for them to meet him. Instantly, the atmosphere became much more relaxed. Is Zhongli Mu cultivating outside? Bailey Hongzhuang looked outside. She hadn't seen Zhongli Mu until now. They missed him a little because he hadn't come back for such a long time. He went out to cultivate early in the morning as usual. You guys haven't been here for a while, so he's been talking about you guys. I'm sure he'll be very happy to see you when he comes back later. Just as they were talking, Senior Zhongli walked over slowly with Zhongli Mu. Upon seeing Di Beichen and the others, Zhongli Mu's face immediately lit up with joy. Brother Di, you're back. Zhongli Mu, long time no see. Everyone smiled. Zhongli Mu walked over quickly. I thought that you would only be gone for a few days, but I didn't expect you to not return after such a long time. I thought that I would never see you again. We went out to train earlier and came looking for you as soon as we came back. Everyone was overjoyed. Although they had not known Zhongli Mu for long, they had always treated him as their younger brother. It was really hard not to like this young man who was astonishingly strong but also very simple. It's great that you're back. Zhong Limu's smile was simple and honest. In the past, when you guys didn't come, I didn't feel bored. But after you guys left, I felt that being alone was too boring. This time, you won't be leaving for the time being, right? Chapter 60:15. After hearing Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest's answer, Zhong Limu was relieved. He had been hoping that everyone would come back soon. Otherwise, it would be too boring for him to be alone. Zhongli Xiaoran looked at Zhong Limu's happy face and his gaze softened. Zhong Limu had been with this group of old people since he was young, so he was bored. As a grandfather, he could clearly feel that Mu'er had become happier after getting to know Di Baichen and the rest. Now, he was sure that these little fellows were good people and had no other motives. If they could go to the immortal domain with Mu'er, that would be great too. Oh right, senior, do you recognize this? Bailey Hongzhuang took out a book and handed it to Granny Hua. The content written on it was what they had copied in the Light Palace. However, they did not recognize the meaning of these words. After returning to the Di family, they had asked their grandfather, but he did not recognize these words either. He had flipped through some ancient books, but there was no introduction to these words. Therefore, if they wanted to know the content of these words, this was the only way. If Granny Hua and the rest did not know, they could only think of a way after going to the immortal domain. Granny Hua took the book. When she saw the words written on it, a look of surprise appeared in her eyes. These are ancient words. Once she said this, Yu Hong and the rest became more serious. The ancient words had been around for many years. It was impossible to see them in ordinary places. Old man Hua, take a look. Granny Hua handed the book to Hua Shukang. Hua Shukang flipped through 2 pages and nodded. That's right, these are ancient words. Where did you get this? Yu Hong asked. Bailey Hongzhuang answered honestly, this is what we saw on the wall of the Light Palace. I felt that the content was very profound and might be useful in the future, so I copied it down. It's a pity that we don't recognize these words. Therefore, I would like to ask you seniors if you recognize them? We don't recognize these ancient words either. Granny Hua shook her head. We only know that these are ancient words of the immortal domain. However, it was too long ago. Just like the ancient battlefield, we can't trace its origin. That's right. Hua Shukang was helpless. The things recorded in the Light Palace should be very precious. It's a pity that too long ago, even in the immortal domain, no one would recognize them. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen looked at each other. It seemed that Qing Devil did not lie to them on this point. It was as if a huge treasure had appeared in front of you, but you did not have the key. It was really frustrating. Not to mention Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, even Yu Hong and the others couldn't help but sigh as they looked at the book. But. Xian? Chapter 60:16. At this moment, Zhongli Xiaoran suddenly took the book. After carefully reading the contents, a trace of contemplation appeared on his face. Seeing this, Yu Hong raised his eyebrows. Old man Zhongli, could it be that you recognize these words? As soon as these words were spoken, the gazes of everyone descended onto Zhongli Xiaoran. If he knew the contents of these words, then they might really have opened a treasure trove. Facing everyone's expectant gazes, Zhongli Xiaoran slowly shook his head. I don't? Then why are you pretending to be so deep? Yu Hong rolled his eyes. To think that he was so expectant. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were also very helpless. What they hoped for the most now was to meet someone who could recognize these words. But I have a friend who might recognize these words. Zhongli Xiaoran's voice rang out again. Everyone was slightly stunned. Then their eyes flashed with a strong sense of hope. Really? Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but be surprised. He has always been good at these things. Zhongli Xiaoran's voice had a hint of certainty. However, he is in the immortal region. Hua Shukang sighed. He was not surprised. As long as someone recognizes him, even if he is in the immortal region, there will be a chance in the future. Towards the end, perhaps Hua Shukang's words were directed at Di Baichen and the others. Granny Hua nodded slightly with a kind smile on her face. Although the people living in the abandoned immortal forest have always been looked down upon by the people in the immortal region, you juniors are still young. In the future, you will definitely have a chance to go to the immortal region. How can us old fellows allow the younger generation to stay in the forsaken immortal forest like us? Then, will I also have to go to the immortal region in the future? Zhongli Mu suddenly asked. Zhongli Xiaoran smiled at Zhongli Mu. He reached out and patted the latter's head. Didn't you always think that it is boring to stay in the abandoned immortal forest with us old guys? Once you have learned enough, you can go to the immortal region. At that time we will not stop you." Hearing this, Zhongli Mu's expression became complicated. "Grandpa, I'm not unwilling to stay here." Zhongli Xiaoran had a warm smile on his face, completely different from his usual stern self. Only when he was facing Zhongli Mu would he reveal such a loving expression. "Even if you want to stay here, we won't agree. You're still so young, why don't you go out and explore the world? We old guys have already seen everything, that's why we stayed in the abandoned immortal forest." Granny Hua laughed lightly and said, "Your grandfather already had this plan. That's why he's been so harsh on you all these years. You have to understand his good intentions. Otherwise this old fellow only has you as his grandson. If you're not strong enough, he won't feel at ease letting you go out." Yu Hong and the others nodded in agreement. Zhongli was the least talkative among them, but they were well aware of his feelings for Muner. "Old man Zhongli, you don't have to worry at all. Muner is so outstanding and he has inherited our legacy. It would be strange if he was bullied by those young fellows outside." When He Shukang spoke, his face was full of confidence and pride. After Bailey Hongzhuang noticed this, she was a little surprised. Chapter 60-17. Initially, she thought that the cultivators of the immortal domain must be extremely terrifying, unimaginable existences if they could only stay in the forsaken immortal forest despite being so powerful. However, after hearing what Senior Hua said, she suddenly felt that things were different from what she thought. Perhaps Senior Zhongli and the rest were experts who were tired of life in the immortal domain, which was why they stayed in the forsaken immortal forest. This situation was not impossible. That was what Senior Hua meant. As for whether that was the case, they would have to wait until they went to the immortal domain to find out. "Don't worry, when you are strong enough to go to the immortal domain, I will write a letter for you to bring. As long as my old friend sees my letter, he will definitely help you." Zhongli Sharon's expression was calm, and his words were filled with confidence. It was obvious that his old friend had a very good relationship with him. "Thank you, Senior." Di Beichen cupped his fists in thanks. This was extremely good news for them. After talking about the recent situation, the atmosphere was completely relaxed. "Quick, look at the gifts these little fellas brought us." Granny Hua smiled as she waved her hand. "While you were away, our food standards have dropped quite a bit." "That's the truth." Yu Hong's face was serious. "This feeling is the same as Muner. When you weren't around, we ate like this. However, ever since you came, eating the same food as before, the feeling is really—" Yu Hong shook his head helplessly, clearly disgusted. Zhongli Mu looked at Yu Hong, who did not give him any face and could not help but ask, "Senior Yu, is my food really that bad?" "No one asked him to eat it," Zhongli Shaoran said. Yu Hong smiled embarrassedly. "Muller, I'm not saying that your food is bad. I just feel that Hong Zhuang's culinary skills are better." "That's true." Zhongli Mu nodded honestly. "Actually, I also feel that Hong Zhuang's food is the best. If there's a chance, I would like to learn from Hong Zhuang." "No need." Zhongli Shaoran sat down proudly. "Don't tell me you specialize in cooking for everyone? That's all you've done. He doesn't care if he eats it or not. It's best if he starves to death." Zhongli Shaoran had always been very protective of Zhongli Mu, and in such a situation he displayed it vividly. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other, and a smile appeared on their lips. Senior Yu was actually very kind-hearted. It was just that his mouth was guarded, and it was very easy for him to offend people. Normally it would be fine. However, when facing Senior Zhongli, the latter would not be courteous in the slightest. However, it was clear that everyone had always gotten along with each other like this. From Yu Hong's face that did not have the slightest bit of anger, one could tell that he was already used to Zhongli Xiaoran's insults. After dinner, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others returned to their normal lives and followed Zhongli Mu to cultivate. When everyone stood in front of the waterfall again, they all had joyful smiles on their faces. In the past, I only felt that this river was too scary. However, after not coming back for so long, I really do miss it. When Xiren could not help but say as he jumped into the river, causing a splash. Seeing Xiren's action, Mo Yunjue and the other two looked at each other and jumped into the river together. Chapter 60-18. With the current weather, jumping into the river would be the coolest. Bailey Hongzhuang, Shangguan Ying and Linger looked at each other. a playful smile appearing on their faces. In the next moment, the three of them also jumped into the river without hesitation. They were using this method to announce that they were back. Zhong Limu looked at everyone and the smile on his face became even brighter. The feeling of cultivating with everyone like this was really good. I'm coming too. Zhong Limu laughed and immediately rushed into the river. Xiao He, Xiao Bai and Xiao Xuanzi were not to be outdone. How could they not participate in this kind of situation? After a round of laughter, everyone returned to normal. Now that your strength has increased greatly, I'm sure that the speed of learning this move will be much faster. I hope that you will be able to learn it soon. Zhong Limu's face was filled with a simple smile. Don't think that this move is simple, but it's very useful when used. Hearing this, Di Beichen nodded slightly. He had the most profound understanding of this point. When he had displayed that move, in fact, it had not been completely successful, but it had already had such power. If he cultivated it for a while, the effect would be even better. Everyone had seen Di Beichen use this move before, so they were very familiar with its effects. They also understood that the senior guiding them to learn this move was really for their own good. Zhong Limu, don't worry, we will definitely work hard. Alright, how's your practice of that move? Di Beichen asked with a faint smile. In the past year, everyone's strength had improved greatly. Zhong Limu had always been an extremely abnormal existence in terms of cultivation. Through this period of cultivation he might have already mastered this move. I've already mastered it. Zhong Limu touched his head. A simple and clear smile was reflected on his young and tender face, imprinted in everyone's heart. Facing such a cute young man, everyone only felt happy. It's really your style. Xiren was not surprised. If we didn't have the opportunity this time, I'm afraid that we would be left far behind by you again. Zhong Limu, since you've already mastered it, why don't you show us? It was rare for Mo Yunjue to speak. When he first saw Zhong Limu practicing this move, he was very surprised. Although he hadn't mastered it at that time, being able to walk to the center was already a terrifying ability. Now that he had succeeded, the scene would definitely be spectacular. Everyone nodded and looked at Zhong Limu expectantly. They were also very curious about the effect. Then I'll show you. Zhong Limu agreed without hesitation. His figure flashed as he charged towards the magnificent waterfall under everyone's gaze. He saw a figure rushing up from the bottom of the waterfall as fast as lightning. The turbulent water rushed down and the rumbling sound was endless. Everyone saw that a path seemed to have been opened in the middle of the waterfall, and a young and vigorous figure rushed up the waterfall at lightning speed. Unlike the first time when he was washed down by the river halfway, this time he directly climbed to the top. Looking at the sturdy and proud figure, everyone's eyes were filled with admiration. Chapter 60-19. This move looks really shocking after mastering it. Shangguan Ying stared blankly at the figure on top of the waterfall. Even though the figure was extremely small compared to the majestic waterfall, at this moment, no one could ignore his existence. Zhong Limu's speed is truly abnormal. But thinking about how he usually looks when he cultivates, even I have to admit that this fellow is really handsome. Xiren's lips curled into a brilliant smile. When he saw someone of the same age who was stronger than him, he couldn't help but feel complicated. But when he saw this young man who was so terrifyingly strong, he didn't have any other emotions. He just felt happy for him from the bottom of his heart. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' faces were filled with joy. Perhaps Zhong Limu had this kind of magic that made everyone happy for him. In the next moment, Zhong Limu suddenly jumped down from the top of the waterfall, allowing the water to wash over him. Not long after, he returned to their side. Zhong Limu, this move of yours is really powerful. Looks amazing. Shangguan Ying gave him a thumbs up. This fellow really made many people prostrate themselves in admiration. If Zhong Limu went to the upper realm, those arrogant fellows wouldn't have the face to continue being so arrogant. Zhong Limu smiled foolishly, but his eyes dimmed. I've been practicing this move for a while. Grandfather said that my speed is already too slow. Too slow. Hearing these two words, everyone blushed with shame. How hard was this move to practice? They thought about how they had spent so much time practicing this move and still hadn't succeeded. Zhong Limu didn't know how much damage his words had done to everyone. He continued, once you've mastered this move, you can practice this move too. Senior Hua said that besides being strong, a cultivator must also be good at escaping. This way if you can't win you can still run. So speed is a must. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Escaping was indeed a very important move for a cultivator. As the saying goes, it's never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. If you can't win, run away. If you can't win, then fight again. Senior Hua is really interesting. Di Beichen smiled faintly. Now that you've mastered this move, do you want to go somewhere else to practice? Zhongli Mu shook his head. No, I'll stay here and cultivate. Then what are you training here for? Mo Yunjua's eyes flashed with a trace of doubt. What I'm practicing now is the usage of elemental power. Zhongli Mu said frankly, when I was practicing previously, I was only using the most superficial of powers. However, there are actually many ways to use elemental powers. After mastering the usage of elemental energy, one's strength will become even stronger. Then how are you cultivating now? Bailey Hongzhuang was very curious. In fact, the upper realm was not good at using elemental powers. She vaguely felt that this might be the difference between the two planes. After going to the Darkness Temple and the Radiant Temple, her understanding of elemental powers had deepened. However, it was very clear that what Zhongli Mu was practicing now was more specific. Sensing everyone's curious gazes, Zhongli Mu said, "Do you want me to show you?" "Sure." Chapter 60-20. Walk up it steadily? Bai Lianche found it hard to believe. With the speed of the water and its weight, it would be difficult to rush up in an instant. Walking up steadily was even more difficult. When everyone heard this, they found it hard to believe. This kind of thing. Most people wouldn't have thought of it. Zhongli Mu nodded affirmatively. That's right. Actually, this is quite difficult. It takes a lot of time to practice. In the beginning, I also felt that it was too difficult to achieve this. However, after cultivating for a while, I realized that it was actually possible. Noticing the confident smile on Zhongli Mu's face, everyone looked at each other. They understood that since their senior had asked Zhongli Mu to do this, it meant that it was possible. However, it was obvious how difficult the process was. I haven't mastered it yet. Let me demonstrate it to you. Zhongli Mu smiled faintly. I think that the senior's arrangement for all of you is the same as mine. This is the process that we have to go through. Hearing this, everyone lamented in their hearts. It seemed that this was a process that they had to go through. It was just that Zhongli Mu was walking ahead of them. In the next moment, Zhongli Mu leaped into the familiar river. He was as agile as a fish. In the blink of an eye, he was already at the bottom of the river. Just when everyone was curious, a fiery red light suddenly appeared at the bottom of the waterfall. The aura of the fire attribute instantly swept out. Fire and water were incompatible. Under the waterfall, the fire seemed to be extinguished at any time. However, Zhongli Mu used the fire attribute to create a square around his body. He controlled the four walls to slowly move upwards. His walking speed was very slow. Under the terrifying impact of the water, it seemed like he would be washed down at any time. However, he was as sturdy as a rock. He steadily moved upwards. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the fiery red light in the middle of the waterfall. If they didn't understand the purpose of this at first, they completely understood after seeing Zhongli Mu's demonstration. Zhongli Mu is using his fire attribute energy to create a few walls to surround himself. Not only that, his body isn't splashed by any water. Di Beichen's eyes were full of wisdom. He carefully observed every change in Zhongli Mu, and everything was clear to him. Fire and water are incompatible, but he was able to use the power of fire to resist the impact of the waterfall. He is indeed impressive. Mo Yunjue said in admiration. This process seemed very simple to them, but in reality, it was extremely difficult to control. In a place where the water element was everywhere, it was not easy to stabilize the fire element. Moreover, once the flames were extinguished by the water, everything would be considered a failure. Zhongli Mu's control over elemental energy is much better than ours, Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly, her clear eyes filled with anticipation. She would never feel disappointed about what she lacked. On the contrary, if there was something she wasn't good at, they just needed to learn. In the past, they had always relied on themselves to explore, and their progress was relatively slow. Now that they had a master to guide them, it was already a great help. Granny Flower was also thinking of ways to help everyone improve. Every day Granny Flower would concoct medicine. However, Bailey Hongzhuang learned that this potion was different from the potions they had used before. The effect was better and more in line with their current physical condition. Chapter 6022. Regarding this, Bailey Hongzhuang was also pleasantly surprised. Granny Hua's medical skills were outstanding. It could be seen from the medicine that she had concocted. Actually, during this period of time, she had also taken the time to read the medical books that Granny Hua had given her. The medicinal herbs in the immortal domain were more abundant than those in the upper realm. The plane that she had lived in her previous life was also in the upper realm, so her medical skills were already very brilliant there. However, in the immortal domain there were still many shortcomings. Fortunately, she was already very good at this, so even if she had never come into contact with these medicinal herbs, her memory was still very good. After memorizing all the names of these medicinal herbs with Granny Hua's guidance, her progress was also not bad. Granny Hua clearly did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang to have such amazing talent in this area. With just a few words of guidance, she could quickly deduce many things from one example. Many times she did not say anything and just let Bailey Hongzhuang think for herself, and the latter could more or less deduce things. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang like this, she became more and more satisfied. Every master would be happy to have such an intelligent disciple. Although Mooner also dabbled in this area of medical skills, he was not as attentive as you in this area. I originally thought that no one could properly inherit my mantle, but I didn't expect that the heavens would actually send me such a good disciple. Granny Hua looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a smile. Her originally loving face was now even more amiable, and her gaze had an additional trace of seriousness. Hongzhuang, I formally ask you, are you willing to be my disciple? Once you become my disciple, you must abide by the rules that I set. After going to the immortal domain, you must also remember that you are my disciple. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the flower in surprise. Previously, Granny Hua had only casually guided her, and her progress was already very fast. Now that Granny Hua was willing to accept her as a disciple, the feeling was completely different. Master, please accept a bow from your disciple. Bailey Hongzhuang knelt on the ground and bowed deeply. Seeing this, the flower's smile became even more brilliant. Good disciple, quickly get up. Yes, master. Bailey Hongzhuang had a gentle smile on her face as she quickly walked to Hua Hua's side. Hua Hua caressed Bailey Hongzhuang's hair. She looked as affectionate as if she was her biological grandmother. Since you've already become my disciple, I'll pass on all my skills to you. From today onwards, you will cultivate during the day and learn medical skills from me at night. You will learn while soaking in medicinal baths. Medical skills are very useful, but as a cultivator, strength is also the foundation. You have to be prepared to suffer, the flower said in a deep voice. Master, don't worry. I'm not afraid of hardship. Hua nodded in satisfaction. These days she had been observing Bailey Hongzhuang's temperament. She was very satisfied with this girl's wisdom and temperament. She was neither arrogant nor rash, nor would she belittle herself. She was extremely hard-working in her cultivation and had never complained about it. She treated them with respect and kindness. This kind of girl, no matter where she was, would be liked by everyone. Of course, Di Beichen and the others were all very good children. As the saying goes, birds of a feather flock together. None of them were bad. It was just that she and Hongzhuang hit it off the best. The other little fellows obviously had no attainments in medical skills. As for learning from scratch, it was not very suitable for these little fellows. Chapter 6023. Hongzhuang, did Granny Hua accept you as her disciple? Shengguan could not hide the joy on her face. Her happy expression made everyone think that she was the one who succeeded in becoming Granny Hua's disciple. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded. Yes, Granny Hua has already accepted me as her disciple. From now on, I will learn medicine from Granny Hua at night. That's great. Shengguan Ying's face was filled with envy. Hongzhuang, I really envy you. Not only are you beautiful, but you're also smart. No matter where you go, you're very likable. You too. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Although I know you're comforting me, your words are very useful to me. Shengguan Ying blinked her eyes and looked at Wenziren thoughtfully. I feel that the strength of the several seniors is very strong, beyond our imagination. Didn't Di Beichen say that Senior Yu and the others might be experts who live in seclusion? Now that Granny Hua has accepted a disciple, shouldn't we also work hard to please the seniors and become their disciples? As Shengguan Ying's voice fell, everyone looked at each other, and their minds suddenly became lively. That's a good idea. I think we can give it a try. Ziren's eyes lit up. Previously, Xiao Shou was already proud of having a master who had been to the immortal domain. If we have a master from the immortal domain, wouldn't that be even more amazing? Looking at the situation, you seem to have a plan. D. Baichen's lips curled into an elegant arc. His voice was pleasant and magnetic. Xiren nodded. I feel that among the seniors, Senior Yu is the easiest to please. As long as we buy more delicious food for him, we'll be able to win him over sooner or later. Although the seniors had also given them pointers on the direction of cultivation, the effect of having a master or not was completely different. Just like how Hong Zhuang had also received pointers from Granny Hua, but when Granny Hua wanted to teach her something important, she chose to accept her as her disciple. In fact, the seniors didn't really teach them anything. They just casually gave them pointers and it was already very helpful to them. If they really gave them pointers, wouldn't it be even better? Baichen, what do you think of my idea? Xiren asked expectantly. D. Baichen placed his right hand on his left and tapped his chin with his slender hand. Not bad. Xiren's expression changed. If you say it's not bad, then it's definitely not a problem. However, it's not enough for you to rely solely on bribing Senior Yu's approval. The magnetic voice sounded again, and D. Baichen's expression became more serious. Although Senior Yu usually looks very easy to talk to, he won't easily accept a disciple in this kind of matter. The most important thing is sincerity. Of course, flattery is also very effective to a certain extent. Hearing this, a trace of seriousness appeared on Xiren's face. You're right. Actually, Senior Yu has always been very good to us. I want to go and sound him out. If there's hope, we have to fight for it. Speaking of which, Zhong Limu is the one that we envy the most. Bai Li Yin Che suddenly said. As soon as these words came out, everyone had a look of agreement. The seniors had watched Zhong Limu grow up and had undoubtedly taught him all their abilities. That was why Zhong Limu's strength was already so abnormal at such a young age. Why don't we acknowledge Zhong Limu as our master? Saying this, Xiren couldn't help but laugh. Chapter 60-24. Forget it then. Xiren waved his hand. He had already accepted the fact that Zhong Limu was so young yet so powerful. However, if he acknowledged Zhong Limu as his master, he would not be able to survive in the future. Regarding this, he actually felt that it was natural. Zhong Limu lived in the abandoned immortal forest. Whether it was the cultivation resources or the density of origin energy, it was better than the upper realm, let alone the lower realm. Moreover, Zhong Limu had such powerful masters to teach him. It would be strange if he was not powerful. However, no matter how big the gap was, they were not afraid. After all, they had always been on the path of counterattack. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest were working hard on their cultivation, the situation in the Jun family was gradually becoming bleak. As more and more time passed since the end of the ancient battlefield, Jun Hongcheng and the rest became more and more anxious. This was because they had not seen Jun Lingshuan's figure return yet. Their original confidence had been gradually worn down by the passage of time. Jun Hongcheng's expression became uglier and uglier. Even though he had been comforting himself that Ling Sun was definitely still alive, it had been so long and he still had not returned. Even he could not find any other reason. How could this be? Xiao Shou was in disbelief. At that time, everyone had already left. The people who went to the D family to inquire about the news also said that D Baichen and the rest did not kill Jun Lingshuan. In this way it was impossible for the Qing devil to die. Then why did he not return? Xiao Yanlong's expression was as gloomy as water. All of his plans were completely destroyed when the Qing devil did not appear. Although the Jun family's strength was still there, even the young master was gone. This was a huge blow. Jun Hongcheng had 2 sons in total. Now both of them had died. So, do you know what is going on? Xiao Yanlong's voice was low. This situation was as if someone had ruthlessly slapped him in the face. He was directly slapped back to reality. Xiao Shou's face was pale. She looked as if she had lost her soul. It was as if even she was unwilling to believe that such a thing had happened. I don't know either. It is obviously impossible for him to die. So, he doesn't want to be Jun Lingshuan? Xiao Yanlong's expression. In fact, this was what he was most worried about. As a powerhouse in the immortal region, he could do whatever he wanted in the entire immortal realm. When he was strong enough, he could return to the immortal realm. There was no need to live as Jun Lingshuan with so many restrictions. If So was always so confident, he would not have rushed to the Jun family's residence in such a hurry. But now, once this news spread out, their reputation would be completely gone. No? All the blood drained from Xiao Sou's face, and her voice became hoarse and trembling. Impossible, he wouldn't abandon me like this. What's impossible about that? At this moment, Xiao Yanlong was not in the mood to care about Xiao Sou's emotions. He hasn't come back for so long, his meaning is already very clear. I think there's no need for us to continue staying here. What if he still comes back? Don't think about it. We need to think about what to do next. Xiao Yanlong's face was stern. Now he was also very upset with Xiao Sou's decision to break with the D family. If it were not for this matter, their family would not have been affected at all. Chapter 60-25. Looking at Xiao Yanlong, whose face was already full of anger, Xiao Sou did not dare to say anything more, even if she still believed that Qing Devil would definitely come. When Jun Hongqing knew that Xiao Yanlong was about to leave, he was also a little nervous. Brother Xiao, are you going to leave now? Why don't we wait a little longer? Brother Jun, my family still has some things to deal with. Xiao Yanlong forced a smile on his face. When Ling Sun comes back, you can send someone to inform me? So let's go. Xiao Yanlong strode forward. Recently, he had been waiting here for so long that his blood was boiling, and he felt extremely bored all day long. Now the situation was even more chaotic, especially when he thought of how proud Jun Hongqing was when he told him about the big plan, but reality gave them a cruel slap. After suffering one blow after another, the Xiao family could not take any more blows. If this continued, even if the Xiao family had many years of heritage, they would not be able to hold on. Jun Lingshuan had already died, and the marriage alliance was naturally a bubble. With the grudge between the D family and the Jun family, they would not let the Jun family go. If he asked for peace for the sake of so many years of friendship, there might be a glimmer of hope. So I'm going to visit the D family soon. Xiao Yanlong slowly said. Hearing this, Xiao Sou was suddenly stunned, and a strong sense of astonishment appeared on her face. She widened her eyes and her expression was dull. There was a bit of fear and uncertainty in her voice. Father, you're not planning to go to the D family to ask for peace, are you? Now the D family is unstoppable. If we continue to be enemies with them, we'll just be digging our own graves. After all, Diyu Jue and I have been close friends for so many years. Although we did break up recently, as long as we are sincere, maybe he will let us go. Xiao Yanlong's expression was solemn and serious. He was naturally unwilling to do such a thing, but he was the master of the Xiao family. For him, his face was not the most important thing, the family was the most important. If losing his face could bring stability to his family, he would not hesitate to do so. No. Xiao Sou refused without hesitation. Bailey Hongzhuang's face flashed through her mind. Bailey Hongzhuang was usually very arrogant in front of her. If the Xiao family asked for peace with the D family, then in the future, even if Bailey Hongzhuang was arrogant in front of her, she could not say anything. In the face of someone who had taken everything away from her, how could she possibly swallow her pride? Impossible. She could not do it. Father, it's impossible for them to forgive us. We've been trying to kill them all this time. How could they forgive us? Apart from losing the face of the entire Xiao family, doing so will not help the entire matter at all. I firmly oppose it. Looking at Xiao Sou's angry face, Xiao Yanlong's face also turned red from anger. The anger that he had accumulated over the past few days burst out at this moment without any hesitation. Every word was sharp. You still have the nerve to say that. If it had not been for your rash decision back then, the family would not have fallen into such an awkward situation. If you had the power to become the Saint of Light, everything could still be turned around. However, you've done nothing well. Now, the entire family has lost so many cultivators because of you and we've suffered such a great blow. You still have the nerve to say that you don't agree. Chapter 60-26. Xiao Yanlong's uncharacteristic roar caused Xiao Sou to stand dazedly on the spot. Her face was pale and her eyes were filled with panic. It was as if she never thought that Xiao Yanlong would reprimand her in such a manner. Ever since she was young, she had always been the apple of her father's eye. Even if she had done something wrong, her father had never been willing to speak too harshly to her. However, at this moment, he had actually reprimanded her in such an unceremonious manner. He did not even leave her any face. Father, why are you? Xiao Yanlong no longer had his usual patience as he stared at Xiao Sou's heartbroken and tearful appearance. Instead, he sighed, filled with self-blame and regret. In the past, I had indulged you too much because you were the saint of light. This identity was enough for you to look down on all heroes. That was why I had not properly disciplined you all these years. You are the apple of my eye, but you must understand that we are not only burdened with our personal happiness, anger, sorrow, and joy, but also the development of the entire family. If you had not made such an impulsive decision back then without discussing it with me, you would not have ended up in such a state. Even now, you still haven't thought through everything? Xiao Yanlong could not help but feel disappointed. If there had been any other way, he would not have made such a decision. Now that all their paths of retreat had been blocked, they had no other choice and had lost their best opportunity. It would be extremely difficult even to find other allies. He hoped that Xiao Sou could be reasonable and put herself in the position of the entire family instead of making an unreasonable fuss based on her personal preferences. Xiao Sou stood there in a daze. Xiao Yanlong's words were like a basin of cold water that had been splashed over her body. She felt a bone-chilling chill from head to toe. She had never faced this problem head-on. She had always thought that she was the eldest daughter of the Xiao family. Even if she had lost her identity as the Saint of Light, she still thought that she could do whatever she wanted. She had never thought about how much her father had shouldered for her. All the veils of shame had been pulled off, and when the truth was exposed in front of her, she finally understood that she was no longer the same person as before. Her protective umbrella was gone. Xiao Yanlong did not say anything else. He was also inseparable from the fact that Xiao Sou had turned out like this. If she was still unable to understand at this point, he would not say anything else in the future. Xiao Sou followed closely behind Xiao Yanlong, but she looked as if she had lost her soul. The heavy blow was like a sharp blade that had stabbed fiercely into her heart. It felt as if blood was gushing out continuously, but she could not let out a cry of grief. So, her father's words as words, but she really could not accept it. After when Xiren and the others made up their minds to become apprentices, Yu Hong and the others noticed that the frequency of these little fellows fawning over them was increasing. Yanlong's heart and, with Yanlong's eyes S's he S with him with her with his Yend. E. With his he's. Of. Eat with him. Hers eyes. The abandoned immortal forest was rich in medicinal herbs. Every morning, Bailey Hongzhuang would search for herbs in the vicinity. Chapter 60-27. Other than that, Bailey Hongzhuang had also started to learn how to concoct potions for cultivation. Granny Hua could be said to have taught her everything, not hiding anything. Moreover, she also knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was never someone who only cared about herself. She had taken so many herbs with her, and she had probably given most of them to her family. Now that she saw that Bailey Hongzhuang was so interested in concocting potions, and that she had purposely picked the herbs, she understood this girl's plan. Being concerned about one's family was sometimes a burden, but sometimes it was also a strength. As long as it did not affect her cultivation, she would not have any objections if the young people were willing to work harder. Only by enduring the hardest of hardships could one rise above others. Under such circumstances, Bailey Hongzhuang had become the busiest person among all of them. Even if it was Di Beiqin, he could only speak a few words with her when they were cultivating together. At night, she had always been alone with Grandma Hua to study. Time passed slowly, and after a month, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest returned to the Di family. In this month, everyone's cultivation did not improve much, but they were getting more and more familiar with this sword technique. For this reason, Senior Yu had specially instructed them. When they could use this sword move at will, their battle prowess would not be comparable to ordinary cultivators of the same level. Not only that, they had to learn how to control their power during practice. How to use the least amount of elemental energy under the same power was a kind of knowledge in itself. It might not seem like much, but precise control had endless uses. It could even save one's life at a critical moment. Therefore, everyone trained hard. If they wanted to gain Senior Yu's recognition, they had to at least master this technique. Otherwise, how could they have the face to become his disciple? Beiqin, I've been learning from Granny Hua recently, and I've also concocted a lot of potions. Granny Hua has been helping us prepare the potions on a daily basis, so let's leave these potions in the family. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled as she took out the potions. She was very satisfied with her results in this month. Although these potions were very simple in Granny Flower's eyes, they were of great help to the cultivators of the upper realm. These medicines can be used as rewards for the younger disciples. They are very useful. When I learn a better potion, Father and the others can use it too. This elixir was meant for cultivators at their level of cultivation or weaker. Jue and the others obviously had no use for it. However, being able to increase the strength of the clan's disciples was also an extremely good thing. Taking the medicine from Bailey Hongzhuang's hands, Di Beichen smiled. My wife is really virtuous. You even help me manage the family affairs. Staring at the pair of eyes that were overflowing with laughter, as enchanting as a fog, Bailey Hongzhuang's face reddened. I didn't. Shengguan Ying covered her eyes. You two are showing off your love again. I can't stand it anymore. Ying is right. When Xiren agreed. I can't watch it anymore. So you're still here. Di Beichen pretended to be surprised. Bailey Hongzhuang left a portion of the medicine for her Bailey family, and prepared a portion for the Bailey family. Mu Lingbing was very happy to see Bailey Hongzhuang come out of seclusion. Madame Di just sent some cultivation resources a few days ago. You're sending more so soon. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.